Hey guys, what's up? This is CA Nishant Kumar, and finally we have completed the logical reasoning portion of our syllabus. And today we're going to be starting with the business mathematics area of your syllabus. All right, and the first chapter is ratio, proportion, indices, and logarithms. So we're going to start with that because through this chapter I will be teaching you a lot of calculator tricks as well. All right. Uh, yes, so let's start. All right. The name of the chapter is Ratio, Proportion, Indices, and Logarithms. But before we get into the depth of this chapter, first I need you to understand a very basic concept in mathematics, which is known as a unitary method. All right. We have been studying this methods ever since we were kids, ever since we were in classes 6th and 7th. I remember I studied this method in when I was in class 7th. All right. And it is going to have some serious implications over here. It is going to have some serious implications in accountancy, in partnership, in company accounts, in sole proprietorships, in managerial commission, in all the other subjects of CA intermediate as well as in CA final. All right, you just need to know how you can apply this unitary method, and if you're done with that, everything will be very easy. You cannot even begin to imagine how easy things will become if you just understand what the unitary method is and how to apply this unitary method. All right. So without wasting time, let's start with the unitary method. I'm going to ask you a simple question and I'm pretty sure you all will reply immediately. Right. I'm telling you that you bought 10 apples and that cost you 100 rupees. All right. You bought 10 apples for 100 rupees. And if I ask you how much will 7 apples cost? How much will 7 apples cost? Suppose you bought 10 apples for 100 rupees. Then how much will 7 apples cost? Without even thinking for a second, you will say that the answer is 70 rupees, right? Without even wasting a lot of time, without even a pen and a paper, you can simply say that 7 apples will cost 70 rupees. Now, I want you to pay complete attention on your screen so that you know what actually went through your brain, which you couldn't comprehend, but it actually has gone into your brain, right? So let me just give you give the heading over here, unitary method. Unitary method. All right, I asked you 10 apples cost 100 rupees, right? And I asked you 7 apples cost how much? This was my question. This was my question. Now, what your brain did, what did your brain do? Your brain did this. 10 apples cost 100 rupees. This implies 1 apple costs 100 by 10 rupees, right? This implies that 1 apple costs 100 by 10, that is 10 rupees. This further implies that 7 apples cost 7 into 10, that is 70 rupees. This is what your brain did. This is what your brain did. It was a simple 3-step process. The first step was to write the question itself. The second step was to calculate the price of 1 unit. That is why it said it's called unitary method. This is the reason why this method is called unitary method. All right. So the second step was to find out the cost of 1 unit. And then the third step was to multiply the cost of 1 unit with the number of units. Multiply the cost of 1 unit with the number of units. All right. So this was a simple 3-step process which gave you your answer. Now I need you to understand how can you solve this entire thing in just 2 steps. Can you do this entire thing in just 2 steps? Yes, you can. How? Let's look at it. First you write 10 apples cost 100 rupees. This is the first step. You write 10 apples cost 100 rupees and then you simply write 7 apples cost how much? And the how much will be given by this. Look at it very carefully. You multiply this 7 with 100 and then whatever comes, you divide it by 10. you divide it by 10. So what is actually happening is 7 into 100 upon 10. So this gets cut and your answer is 70. So this process has been reduced, this 3-step process has been reduced to a 2-step process. Right? This 3-step process has been reduced to a 2-step process. 10 apples cost 100 rupees. 7 apples will cost how much? 7 apples will cost 7 into 100 divided by 10. It's simply cross multiplication, and then whatever the product is, you simply divide it by this number. Right? I hope everybody is getting it. Yes, and if yes, if you guys are getting it, just write Nishten, 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 and I'll understand. All right, anyway, let me give you another example. Let me give you another typical maths example, typical mathematics example, what you used to study when you were in classes 6th and 7th, right? You bought 60 watermelons. Oh my God, who on earth will buy 60 watermelons? Now you'll say, sir, a watermelon vendor might buy 60 watermelons. Yes, you're absolutely right, but I'm talking about retailers like you and me, all right? So suppose you buy 60 watermelons at maybe 1,800 rupees per piece, 1,800 rupees, the entire thing. You bought 60 watermelons. You bought 60 watermelons and it cost you 1,800 rupees. Right? I need you to find out the value. I need you to find out the cost of 50 watermelons. What will you do? You will simply write over here 50 watermelons will cost how much? Simply cross multiply and then divide. So what you're going to do is 50 into 1,800 divided by 60. 50 into 1,800 divided by 60. This goes 30, 3 5s are 15 and 1,500 is your answer. I hope everybody has got it. Say Nishten, 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 say Nishten, Nishten, Nishten. So the cost of 50 watermelons is 1,500 rupees. All right. Now, a very important thing to keep in mind is when you're preparing the structure, whenever you're preparing the structure, the requirement of the question has to be on the right hand side of the structure. For example, in this, I asked you the cost. So the cost will be on the right hand side. The watermelons will be on the left hand side. Right? The cost will be on the right hand side. The watermelons will be on the left hand side. Suppose I ask you the number of watermelons. Suppose I ask you the number of watermelons for a certain amount of money. Then the requirement of the question is what? Number of watermelons. So when you'll prepare the structure, you'll put number of watermelons on the right hand side. Right? Let me give you an example. Again, 60 watermelons cost 1,800 rupees. How many watermelons can you get in, suppose, 1,200 rupees? How many watermelons can you get in 1,200 rupees? So now I'm asking you the number of watermelons that you can buy for 1,200 rupees. Requirement of the question is what? The cost or the number of watermelons? The number of watermelons. So you'll place the number of watermelons on the right hand side, right? So now you'll prepare the structure as 1,800 rupees will fetch you 60 watermelons. 1,800 rupees will get you 60 watermelons. So 1,200 rupees will get you how many watermelons? Again, what you'll do is you'll cross multiply, and whatever the product is, you're simply going to divide. So 1,200 into 60 upon 1,800. 1,200 into 60 upon 1,800. Let's see. 1,200 into 60 divided by 1,800 and you'll get 40 watermelons. You'll get 40 watermelons for 1,200 rupees. All right. I hope this thing is clear to everyone. Right, the unitary method is clear to everyone. Instead of making it a 3-step process, we've made it into a 2-step process. All you have to do is just put the requirement of the question on the right hand side of the structure, and then in the first line you just give the information, you just write the information which is given in the question, and in the second line all you have to do is just this multiplied with this and then divided with this. That's it. Right? This unitary method is going to come in handy for a lot of subjects. You won't have to remember a lot of formulas. I remember when I was in CA final, there were a lot of, tax related formulas which I could skip. There were a lot of law related formulas which I could skip. There were a lot of financial management related formulas or accounting related formulas which I could skip just because I knew the unitary method. So this is a very important method. and we will start with ratio and proportion now. But before that, let me take you to the Unacademy website. So this is the Unacademy website, which you can see behind me. Here, India's top educators meet your educational needs. So all you have to do is just click here on Start Learning, and then you have to click here on CA and CS, and then you have to click here on CA Foundation and Intermediate. You'll see what all you'll get. These are the live classes that are going on right now. These are the live classes that are going on right now. You get to prepare with top educators, and you get a lot of batches for syllabus completion. So if you just click here on see all, you'll see there are so many batches for syllabus completion, right? You'll keep on scrolling, but the batches won't get over. So once you take the Unacademy Plus subscription, you'll have the access of all these batches without having to pay anything extra to any particular batch. How do you take the subscription? Just click here on Get Subscription, and then you will find this. We offer two kinds of subscription. One is a Plus subscription, and the other is the Iconic subscription. In Plus subscription, you get dedicated doubt clearing sessions. You get multiple faculties for the same subjects. You get colored notes. You get structured courses and PDFs. You get weekly live tests and quizzes. Along with that, if you take the Iconic subscription, what will you get extra? Everything which is there on Plus is obviously there on Iconic. But other than everything which is there on Plus, in Iconic subscription, you also get a personal coach, you also get printed books, you also get a progress tracker, and you also get a dedicated discussion channel with the educator with whom you're taking the classes with. All right. So let's talk about the pricing now. Plus pricing is like this. You can go for the 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or 24-month subscription. I would like to recommend you to go for the 24-month subscription because it includes CA Foundation as well as CA Intermediate. Soon enough, this subscription is going to get split into two parts: CA Foundation separate subscription, CA Intermediate separate subscription. So it will be a lot better if you take the subscription before that split happens, and the tentative date of that split is 15th of March. All right. If you put my code over here, Nish10, and then you click here on apply, you will get 10% discount. So everything will get reduced by 10%. Similarly, with Iconic also, if you put my code over here, Nish10, you'll get 10% discount. Now, let's come back to the ratio, proportion, indices, and logarithms. Let's talk about ratios first. All right, it's a very simple thing. Ratios. What do you understand by ratios? Everybody knows a ratio is a comparison of two quantities, right? Everybody knows a ratio is a comparison of two quantities. Suppose this is me. This is my brother. My brother's name is Tushar, right? I am suppose 5 feet 10 inches. My brother is suppose 6 feet 2 inches. Actually, these are not supposed figures. These are actual figures, all right? My brother is younger to me and he's taller than me. Anyway, no problem. So let me take hypothetical figures now. All right. So this is me. Suppose my height is 6 feet. My height is 6 feet, and this is my brother. His height is suppose 6.5 feet. 6.5 feet. I'm not talking about inches right now. I'm just talking about 6.5 feet. Right? So the ratio of my height to my brother's height will be 6 upon 6.5. I hope everybody has got it. Say Nish 10, Nish 10, Nish 10. Other than that, you don't have to do anything in ratios. That's it. All right. So ratio is a comparison of two quantities. We've got this. We got this. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities. Ratio is usually represented as 6 is to 6.5. This is read as is to. Right? And obviously 6 divided by 6.5 is the meaning, is the implication of the ratio, right? Let me just have a little water. So I'm going to dictate you a few notes. Put the heading ratio. All right, write down. A ratio is a comparison. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities of the same kind, and of same units. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities of the same kind and of same units. All right. So same kind means that you can compare height with height. You cannot compare height with weight. right? And same units means that if the height of one commodity is in inches, then the height of another commodity also needs to be in inches, right? The height of other commodity also needs to be in inches. Like if one commodity is in feet, like I said, my height is 6 feet, my brother's height is 6.5 feet. I did not say 6 feet 5 inches, because then we would have to convert it into feet, right? 6 feet 5 inches is not equal to 6.5 feet, right? 6 feet 6 inches is equal to 6.5 feet, right? So the quantities must be of the same kind. That is, you need to compare height with height, you need to compare weight with weight, you need to compare length with length, and so on. And those quantities should be in same units. You cannot compare kilometers with meters. First you have to make them in the same units, right? You cannot compare inches with feet, you have to make them in the same units, right? So write down, if A and B, if A and B are two quantities, if A and B are two quantities of the same kind, if A and B are two quantities of the same kind, then the fraction A by B is called, the fraction A by B is called the ratio of A to B, the ratio of A to B, okay? If A and B are two quantities of the same kind, then the fraction A by B is called the ratio of A to B. It is written as A is to B the quantities A and B, the quantities A and B are called terms of the ratio. The quantities A and B are called terms of the ratio. A is called the first term or the antecedent. A is called the first term or the antecedent, antecedent. A is called the first term or the antecedent, and B is called the second term or the consequent. B is called the second term or the consequent. Then write, usually a ratio is expressed in its simplest form. Usually a ratio is expressed in its simplest form. Usually a ratio is expressed in its simplest form. Right? After this, I'm going to make you write down a few points to remember. So put the heading points to remember. Points to remember. All right. First point. Ratio exists. Ratio exists only between quantities of the same kind. Ratio exists only between quantities of the same kind. Ratio exists only between quantities of the same kind. quantities to be compared must be in the same units. Must be in the same unit, not units. Quantities to be compared must be in the same unit. Write down the third point. To compare which ratio is bigger, or to compare which ratio is greater, use calculator. To compare which ratio is greater, use calculator. Right? We'll talk about this as well. Write down the fourth point, or don't write down the fourth point. It's very simple. There's no need to write down the fourth point. All right. Now I'll give you some questions. I hope you have written all these 3 points. First point is ratio exists only between the quantities of the same kind. Second point is quantities to be compared must be in the same unit. And the third point is to compare which ratio is greater, use calculator. Now I'm going to give you some questions based on these 3 points. So let's write down question number 1. Question 1. What is the ratio between 150 grams and 2 kgs? Now, can you do this 150 is to 2? Yeah, 150 upon 2. Can you do this? No. You need to first convert either grams into kgs, or you need to convert kgs into grams. All right. So you need to convert either grams into kgs, or you need to convert kgs into grams. So let's convert kgs into grams. Solution. 2 kgs is equal to 2000 grams. 2000 grams. Right? 2 kgs is equal to 2000 grams. Ratio is equal to 150 upon 2000. This is your answer. Ratio is equal to 150 upon 2000. Now, ratio is usually expressed in the simplest form, so you can actually reduce it. However, it doesn't make any difference. 5 3s are 15, 5 40s are 20. So the answer is basically 3 is to 40, 3 by 40. All right. When we'll start doing the questions from the book, you'll see that all of this doesn't matter. I just want to, give you some base. That's why I'm doing all this. All right, write down another question, question number 2. Question number 2. What is the ratio between 25 minutes and 45 seconds? So can I do this 25 by 45 or 25 is to 45? Can I do this? No. First, I need to convert either seconds into minutes or minutes into seconds. So converting minutes into seconds is easier. So I'll write solution. 25 minutes is equal to 25 into 60. How many seconds are there? 1500. So ratio will be 1500 upon 45. Now you can reduce it in the simplest form, right? So I don't think anybody would have any problem in these type of questions, right? Let's look at question number 3. Now this is interesting. Question 3. Which of the following ratios is greater? Which of the following ratios is greater? One ratio is 2 whole number 1 upon 3 is 2. 3 whole number 1 upon 3, this is one ratio, right? And another ratio is 3.6 is to 4.8. And you need to find out which of the following ratios, which of these ratios is greater. Which of these ratios is greater, right? if I had given a simple ratio of suppose 3:5, all of us know that it actually means 3/5, right? A simple ratio 3:5. What does it actually mean? It actually means 3/5, right? So if we do 3/5 on a calculator, what will we get? 3/5 on a calculator will give us 0.6, right? This is exactly what we have to do. This is exactly what we have to do. First of all, we'll solve this ratio on the calculator. How do we solve this ratio on the calculator? We'll do 2 whole number 1/3 divided by 3 whole number 1/3. Let's see what comes. And then what we'll do, we'll see 3.6 divided by 4.8, and then we'll see what comes. If the quotient, if whatever comes over here is greater than whatever comes over here, then we'll say that this ratio is greater. It's as simple as that. Right? Okay. So the first ratio is 2 whole number 1/3 divided by 2 whole number 1/3 divided by 3 whole number 1/3. So this is 3 2s are 6, 3 2s are 6 plus 1, 7/3 divided by 3 3s are 9 plus 1, 10/3. 7/3 divided by 10/3. So 10 divided by 3 is equal to m plus 7 divided by 3 is equal to divided by MRC is equal to answer is 0.7. All right, let's look at these tricks later on. 7/3 into 3/10. 3 3 cut, 7/10 and 7/10 is 0.7. Right? So the simplification of this ratio gives you 0.7. Now we'll see what does a simplification of 3.6:4.8 give us. 3.6, 4.8. This gives you 0.75. 0.75. Which is greater? 0.75 is greater or 0.7 is greater? Obviously 0.75 is greater. And if 0.75 is greater, then that would mean that 3.6:4.8 is greater. 3.6:4.8 is greater. Getting it? I hope everybody is getting it, right? Which of the ratios is greater? 3.6:4.8. This is the greater ratio. Now, question number 4. Question number 4. Write down. Ronak weighs 56.7 kgs. Ronak weighs 56.7 kgs. If he reduces his weight, in the ratio 7:6, find his new weight. Ronak weighs 56.7 kgs. If he reduces his weight in the ratio 7:6, find his new weight. Ronak weighs 56.7 kgs. If he reduces his weight in the ratio 7:6. Now, this line is very important. If he reduces his weight in the ratio 7:6, what does this line actually mean? This means that if Ronak's weight earlier was 7 kgs, if Ronak's weight earlier was 7 kgs, he reduces it to 6 kgs now. He reduces it to 6 kgs. This is Ronak's general method of reducing weight. This is Ronak's general method of reducing weight. That is, if his weight is initially 7 kgs and he needs to reduce his weight, so he reduces his weight to 6 kgs. Right? This is what is meant when it says that Ronak reduces his weight in the ratio 7:6. In the ratio 7:6 means if his weight was originally 7 kgs, now his weight after reduction becomes 6 kgs. Right? So, if earlier weight was 7 kgs, the new weight is 6 kgs. But now the earlier weight is what? 56.7 kgs? 56.7 kgs. So, what would be the new weight? Simple unitary method. Cross multiply whatever comes, divide by this. So 56.7 into 6 divided by 7. 56.7 into 6 divided by 7. 56.7 into 6 divided by 7. Your answer is 48.6. Your answer is 48.6 kgs. I hope everybody has got it. Say nishten, nishten, nish, nishten, say nishten, nishten, nish, nishten, say nishten, nishten, nish, nishten. All right, simple. Now, let me make you write a few more points to remember. So give the heading. Points to remember. Continued. I think we did till how many points we had written? 3 points, right? Okay, instead, what you do is just write down some more points to remember. Some more points to remember. And then once again start with the number 1 only. Right? Right. Inverse ratio. What do you mean by inverse ratio? The inverse ratio of A by B is simply B by A. That's it. The inverse ratio of A by B is B by A. That means all you have to do is just reciprocate the fraction. Okay? All you have to do is just reciprocate the fraction. Point number 2. Write down point number 2. Compound ratio. The mosquitoes, the flies. All right. Compound ratio. Right. The multiplication of two or more ratios. The multiplication of two or more ratios is called compound ratio. Right? The compound ratio of A by B and C by D is equal to A by B into C by D. That's it. You simply have to multiply these two ratios. So compound ratio, the multiplication of two or more ratios is called compound ratio. So the compound ratio of A by B and C by D is equal to A by B into C by D. Point number 3. Duplicate ratio. Duplicate ratio. A ratio compounded of itself is called duplicate ratio. Now this simply all you have to do is just square the numerator as well as the denominator. All right, I just made you write down this fancy language so that if it comes in the exam, if a theoretical question comes in the exam, a ratio compounded of itself is called what? Inverse ratio, compound ratio, duplicate ratio, sub-duplicate ratio options, then you have something to go with, right? Then you can simply mark duplicate ratio. That's why I made you write this technical language. A ratio compounded of itself is called duplicate ratio. The duplicate ratio of A by B is A square by B square. That's it. Duplicate ratio means you have to square the numerator as well as the denominator. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. This is known as a duplicate ratio. And write the 4th point. Sub-duplicate ratio. Sub-duplicate ratio. A ratio, or instead of writing the definition, just write the sub duplicate ratio of A by B is square root of A upon square root of B. The subduplicate ratio of A by B is square root of A upon square root of B. So if we're talking about the duplicate ratio, all you have to do is just square the numerator and the denominator. And if we're talking about the subduplicate ratio, all you have to do is just take the square root of the numerator and the denominator. That's it. Right? This is known as a subduplicate ratio. Now, right, point number 5. Point number 5 is triplicate ratio. I think you might have guessed triplicate ratio. What is triplicate ratio? The triplicate ratio of A by B is A cube by B cube. The triplicate ratio of A by B is A cube by B cube. The triplicate ratio of A by B is A cube by B cube. And write point number 6. Sub triplicate ratio. The sub triplicate ratio of A by B is cube root of A upon cube root of B. The sub triplicate ratio of A by B is cube root of A upon cube root of B. Right? The sub triplicate ratio of A by B is equal to cube root of A upon cube root of B. Right? So these were the notes on ratio and proportion that I needed to give you before we can start with the exercise. All right. And this is basically pretty much it. All right. And you can see how simple it is. From next class, from tomorrow, we'll actually start with the questions of the exercises, and then we'll see how to apply all this information there. And I'll also be giving you a lot of calculator tricks along the way. All right. So I'll see you guys later now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.